Hello class, in this tutorial I'd like to show you how to add images and links to your website. So we'll go ahead and start from scratch again with a basic page, and then we'll probably build onto this one in future tutorials. So what I have open here is I have a folder called IMD 133 on my desktop. So whether you're using Mac or PC, this would be the setup that I would recommend. So get your IMD 133 folder on there, and then inside this folder I think I'll go ahead and right click and do a new folder, and I'll call it project 1 because this tutorial is going to be similar to the very first project that I have posted for you, and just put that in the same folder in the same location as that first site if you watched the tutorial from the first week of class. Now I also have Chrome open. I'm just going to use Chrome this time, and a couple different websites that I'll show you here, and then I'm going to open up my text editing program. In this case, for demonstration, I'm going to use brackets, but you might be using Notepad or something else, but that's probably going to be one of those two programs. And I am going to start a new file here, so let me just close this index that's open so I don't confuse myself here. So this is my setup for editing, and I should be ready to begin now. So for the sites that you want to have open here to follow along with this tutorial, I've got w3schools.com, and I want to click on Learn HTML, and then I want to go down to HTML Basic right here on the left, and I believe that has the skeleton, the headings, paragraphs, links, and an image. So what we'll do here, we kind of looked at the basic skeleton. We'll start with that again, and then we will add in an image and then add in a link. We'll do a link to an outside website, and then we will also put a link into a new HTML page of our own creation. So again, to save time on these tutorials, I'm not going to type everything out line by line. I'm going to make use of copying and pasting here for the skeleton. But again, I would recommend that you do type out some of this. That is hand coding, getting used to typing it. But obviously you don't want to sit here and watch me type everything with the tutorials, but you understand what I'm saying with that. So I'll do File, New here in brackets or Notepad, whatever you're doing. Create a new file. Before you start typing in or copying and pasting, click File, Save, and go ahead and save that into the HTML, the IMD 133 folder that we are using for this class. So in this case, let's see, I'm on the desktop and I'm looking for IMD 133, and then here's the folder I just created called Project 1. I'll double click on that, and then I want to go ahead and type in index.html and then go ahead and click Save. So what I'm doing here, this is really important that you save your file as index.html into your new folder that you created. If you save it on the desktop, that's going to cause a problem, or put it in a different folder. It needs to be in the folder that you just created. I'll go ahead and click Save. Alright, and now I'm ready to go ahead and build a basic skeleton for my site. So to save time, again, I'm just going to use their example right here, starting with the doc type HTML. I'll go ahead and copy, and then I'll click right here and I'll do a paste. So this is going to be my first basic skeleton. And again, let's see, hopefully you can see that pretty well. I'll increase the font size just a little bit again so you can see it. And now what I want to do is go ahead and save this and make sure it opens up the way I want to in a browser. So here's the way I like to do this. Brackets does have a live preview, but I'm not going to use that because not everyone has live preview on here. Plus it doesn't make that much difference. I'll click File, Save again, make sure this is saved. And now I want to open up the HTML file that I'm looking at in a browser. Okay, so I'm going to go here with a new tab in Chrome, and I will go ahead and just simply drag and drop my index.html file right there. If I double click on it, it's going to open up in Firefox. I think that's my default. I'd rather open up in Chrome here for this demonstration, so I'll drag and drop it. Remember, you can also do a file open file from any browser if that's easier for you, or you can even right click on the HTML file. So check this out, it's working. I want to do a little bit of customizing so that it makes more sense here for my demonstration. So very quickly here, I'll just change this and I'll say, again, Drew's first website. This is going to have links in it. And then let's say here's an image, and we'll put an image right under this. Here's an image. And then let's save this and make sure it's working. So I'll do a file save. I'll come over here and click refresh. So I'll click refresh and you'll see there it is. So that updated it. Alright, so let's go ahead and put in an image so you can see how this works. First thing I want to do is create an images folder. I would recommend that you separate your images into an images folder. So let me come back here. Now there are multiple ways to create folders. You probably know that by now. When you're saving an image or saving a file, you can create it in that dialog box, or you can just do it here on the desktop. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on project 1. I'm going to right click and I'm going to click save a new folder as images. So this is the setup for a typical website. Just to get started, you're going to have your HTML files in your folder, and then you're going to have an images folder. And I would do that specific to each website that you create. So basically a website is a folder, and inside that your multiple HTML files and your images. Very important that you save your images folder as all lowercase and no spaces. Alright, and now let's save an image into that. So you probably have images on your computer, your phone, and you might want to save those onto your computer and put those in that folder. You can do it that way if you want. For this demonstration, just so that I'm doing something that everybody can follow along with, in case you don't have an image easily accessible, I'm just going to use a free stock photography site. It's called unsplash.com, and it's free for you to use as you would like. I mean, they do want you to give them credit if you're using it for like a site that's live or something, but we're practicing. I should mention also at this point that everything that you want to grab and save from the web is fine as far as copyright issues if you're practicing on it on your own computer. The only time you're going to get into trouble with copyright is if you start uploading your files or you use them as your own website or something, something that is copyrighted. But for fair use and education, practicing on a computer, you can download anything you want and practice it, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want to use something in your project that's copyrighted, that's fine for me because we're not uploading these sites yet. The problem comes if you do start to upload websites. So right now we're just going to use unsplash.com, and let me just grab an image. So let's see, let me just get a picture here of a building or something that might look kind of cool on my website. And let's just use this one. Makes you kind of dizzy. And I'll click download free right here on the top right. And that's going to save to your downloads folder or wherever you have your default downloads set. So again, this is one of those things that just is kind of more specific to your computer, and you're going to have to know how to get that file that you just downloaded. So in my case, it's in a folder called downloads. It's pretty obvious. Here it is. And then what I want to do is rename this and put it over here in my images folder. That's all you have to do. So you're downloading an image, you're going to rename it, something that's simple. Renaming is actually really important because you don't want to try to type out or even copy and paste and try to get this name of the image right. So you want to rename it all lowercase, no spaces again, and then put it in your images folder. So I'm going to single click on this for renaming on a Mac, pretty easy, and I'm just going to call this building, and then I will click enter and then drag and drop this onto my images folder. And again, that's just as simple as taking this, dragging it right on top of this image folder right here, and then I'll be in good shape. Make sure your image is in there before you proceed. This is what it should look like. Alright, I'm done with this downloads folder. Now let's come back to my HTML. Now one thing that I'll mention here is that for my tutorials I'll try to show you the essential elements of HTML, and there are going to be a lot of things that you can start adding in on your own and kind of see what happens here. So for example, with formatting the basics, you can try different headings, you can try paragraphs, different paragraphs, you can try line breaks, things like that. So what I want you to do, it's kind of part of the course assignment, is you want to start working through this tutorial on your own and trying this, because it's just going to take too long and too many videos if I try to demonstrate every single thing that you see right here. So I try to pick out the essential things that you need here. But definitely try some of these different things out. You know, there's a list, for example, in this first paragraph. or in this first basic HTML example tutorial. But what I want is the image tag so that I can put in an image, and let's put it in its own paragraph, which is going to put a little space around it between the first and second line here. So I'll put some space, and then I'll say I'm ready to go ahead and type this out. Again, the spaces that I just put in there, that doesn't do anything. You have to put spaces in with HTML code. So I'm going to do that with a paragraph. So I'll scroll down, look for images, and you'll see quite a few things here. You'll see the W3 Schools JPEG that they're using. Here's the image tag, and there's going to be a width and a height and an alt tag, which is what the browser would read if it's displaying for disabilities. So you do have to put in all of that for your website to be compliant. So you do need to follow this code exactly. So I'll type this out. I'm just going to type it in here. IMG SRC stands for image source equals, and then notice this does try to help me out. Now you may not have these hints that pop up. I'm going to go ahead and follow them. You want to type the path to the image, so all you have to do is type the name of the folder. You don't have to do any kind of a .. slash or anything because it is in the same folder. The images folder is in the same folder as the HTML. That means all you have to do is just type the word images. That's the name of the folder. And then you can see it thinks I want to put in my building, which is good. So I'll put in building.jpg. A note about images, generally photography. Anything that you take with your digital camera or your phone, that's going to be a JPEG. If you have something that's more like a cartoon or a logo, that would be a GIF image. Anything that would have less colors in it, that would be a GIF. So you're going to see those types. You also might see a PNG, but typically it's going to be a GIF or a JPEG. So if you saw this image that I'm putting in right here and it was a GIF, that would be wrong. That would be the wrong file type. So someone would have saved that incorrectly. And then let's go ahead and type in the alt and the width and the height. So let's do alt, and we'll do equals, and we'll say picture of building, and then one more space here, and let's do width. And I say, well, how do I get the width of this? Well, with a Mac, you can right click on it and get the information, and you should be able to do that with a PC as well. So right click, get information. Also where you downloaded it from, it might tell you. This is kind of a large image here, so this is really too big to put in. I would need to resize that. See the second tutorial from this week, the second week of class, for information on resizing that image. In this case, I'll just go ahead and put it in, but you would want to resize something that large. It's just too large in terms of pixels, and the file size, 1.6 megs, that's too large. But in this particular case, just for the demonstration purposes, I'll go ahead and put that in there. So width is going to be 2733, and then height is going to be 3414. And then just go ahead and close that. Now sometimes you'll get things that automatically fill in. That's where you want to delete that. A couple things to note here for this code that I just typed in. Let me stretch this out so you can see it a little better. The first thing you want to do is examine it very closely and troubleshoot it. There's not much there, but I do already see a mistake. Pretty typical when you are typing this out by hand. When you're beginning, you might leave off a quote. So after the JPEG, there should be a quote. So the image is in quotation right here. Notice that there's a space between IMG and SRC. Also notice there's no spaces here in this whole entire section. There's one space between each of these attributes here, the alt, and then picture of building, the width and the height, one space between that. And then don't forget the greater than sign here to kind of finish off that tag. So that looks good to me. So if you want to test it here, if you're at this particular stage, click File, Save, and then come over here to your browser, and again click Refresh. And there it is. You can see it is way too big for the browser. It might work as a background image if you optimized it. It might make a really cool background to a website. For this particular demonstration, it works great. This is what I wanted to show you as far as making this function and getting an image to display in your browser. Now a couple other things here about image sizing. You can actually change the width and the height in your HTML. So for example, I changed this to like I don't know, 1500, left the height the way it was, did a file save and refresh, it distorts it. So that's one problem that you want to be careful. Do not distort your images like that. You also do not want to resize them with the width and the height, because what happens is it still uses the original file. So you could downsize this to like a thumbnail, like 100 by 200 or something, and it's still going to use a 2 megabyte file. So you've got to be careful about that. So if I do that, you can see it will actually resize that, but it's not what you want to do because it still uses the 1.6 megabyte building file. So in the tutorial that I posted for you this week, that's I think titled like image optimizing and zip files, I talk about a website that you can use to resize images. It's just a free one. It'll get you by. Typically what you would do is use a program like Photoshop to resize, optimize, and crop your images. You could also take them from like Facebook, because they do optimize when they upload, so you could get them from that. But in general, you're going to want to optimize and crop and resize your images yourself to avoid problems with distortion and file sizes that are too big and the wrong types of sizes. But I did want to mention that you can resize there, but that's what you want to stay away from. You don't want to do that. So for practicing on your very first website like this and turning it in, it doesn't matter to me what size the images are, but moving forward on future projects and other tutorials, I'll talk more about that, and we'll pay more attention to the sizes for the different files that's going to be part of your website.